And welcome back to episode 4 of How We Got Here podcast. Now, if you're new, this podcast is exactly what you think about. It's how we got here. How did we get from point A to point Z, back to point A, whatever you want to talk about, this is what we're here to talk about. We take in a topic specifically and talk about the evolution of it. Maybe just a little bit more knowledge than you didn't know. My name's Jay, one of your hosts. We've got Paul as well.
Good to be here.
And for the very first time, we're going to see how this goes. And hopefully it goes well. But you've already heard that little laugh. If you listen to this podcast before, you know exactly who it is. Welcome, everybody. Karen.
Hello.
All right. And today's episode is about yoga. And if we can get to it, massage. And the reason you're here is because you do those things.
Yes.
So
yes, I do.
Tell us a little, just tell the audience and us a little bit just about your background and what you do.
All right. So
Who are you?
well, I would say like in regards to massage, yoga, meditation, and all that kind of stuff. I would say that I'm a wellness practitioner. And so I help people through body work and through the transmutation of sick energy. So some of my specialties would include medical massage and Reiki and Chi-Tsang, which is abdominal massage, and shamanism and neuromuscular massage. So I combine a lot of elements that I've studied and practiced over the years to basically create a personalized care package for each individual person. So like I said, I offer a lot of different things. So if anybody is local that's listening to this, would like to check out my website and see what I've got, you can visit KarenApril.com and find out more.
And we'll put that in the description as well. It's KarenApril.
Yes, correct.
.com. Karen April.
And even
Karen
though,
April.
even though I've known a lot of things about Karen over the last couple of years, because we've both gotten to know her a little bit, learned some recent facts about her that I thought were pretty cool lately. I didn't realize that she was a graduate of Thomas More University, which
Oh, really? Me too.
Oh, dope. Yeah.
That's right. Go Saints.
so
I was a good Catholic boy.
but for our out of state listeners and for some of the people that don't know, Thomas More University is an elite college in this area. It's very well respected. And another thing I learned about Karen is she's a fabulous artist. She was kind enough to invite Donna and I to see an exhibition of a couple of her paintings that were being hung in a greater exhibition. And it was very, very impressive what Karen can do. She can paint. I mean, just beautiful stuff. And Donna, who's won a couple art competitions in Europe, was very, very, very impressed. I mean, so Karen is multi-talented, in addition to being a badass at jiu-jitsu. So.
Yeah, she's beat me up so many times. Yeah.
So kind,
So
Paul.
just
Thank
so
you.
perfect.
I do a lot of things.
I like
said.
Connor. I like Connor better. just
He's
so
pretty
you know.
great.
I mean,
so.
that's Karen's husband,
Yeah.
Connor. So I know this is off topic completely, but since we've got Karen here, I've got to share a story about Karen as well.
Oh, God.
So before I joined the gym, which is where I officially met Karen and you, Paul, the Jiu-Jitsu gym, NKY Martial Arts Academy, which I don't think we've never plugged that before, have we?
We haven't.
It's a great school, but maybe later episode, because Scott owns that, runs that, and he is fucking crazy. And I'm sure he's got stories to tell for days. He already has. But anyway, so before I met Karen, or before I joined the gym, I was working out at Planet Fitness. And I was just, trying to lose weight on my fitness journey. And there are these two girls. One of them is using the shoulder press. And it's the only shoulder press that was at Planet Fitness. Okay. The only one. And let's be real. I know who I am, right? I'm mid-30s, fat dude. Who walk up to any girl at a gym, automatic creep. Like, I know that, okay? I needed to do this workout, and I was holding off so bad. I was like, well, they'll be done soon. And then the other girl, not Karen, by the way, in case you don't know, one of the girls was Karen. And I was like, I gotta go. I just walked over politely and I said, you know, when are you going to be done with this? And the girl sitting at the shoulder press just jumps up. We're done now, thank you, and runs away. And guess what happened? Karen standing there. She left Karen to deal with this 30-something creep.
Yeah, Zoe abandoned me.
It was Zoe. It was Scott's daughter.
Oh, it was Zoe.
Yeah. And
Oh, that's good.
Karen, you know, and that you hear her laughing now. It's the exact same laugh. Then
Aw.
I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. She goes, it's okay. She doesn't know how to handle guys.
Yeah.
It's true.
I was
She
like,
doesn't know how to handle people, to be
oh
honest.
yeah, maybe she said people. I don't know, but I was like, and so I went home and I told my wife and I said, Steph, I did probably the creepiest thing I've ever done in my life today, and I knew it was creepy, but I needed to use the machine. And I was just trying to be nice, and I scared away this like high school girl, and she left her friend there. So and I thought nothing of it after that. And I joined the gym and I see Zoe and Karen there, and I see Zoe's dad, Scott, and I was like, I'm fucking dead. But turns out Zoe, it wasn't as creepy as I thought because Zoe had no recollection of it whatsoever. Or maybe she did and was trying to be nice.
Or maybe she suppressed that memory.
I would too.
Oh my God.
It was probably very traumatizing because I don't know what I mean. I've never been a young girl and had to worry about, you know, random weird dudes at the gym.
Yeah, she had to be a teenager at the time, and here you are
Yeah.
in the mid-30s, and she's probably thinking, "Oh my God."
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, can I use that machine, please? All right. So I know that's way off topic, but I had to share that. So let's get into it. I can tell you this. Everything that you just said to me about what you do sounded, and this is just honesty, like a snake oil salesman.
Ooh.
Like it did.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's the point I'm trying to make is I went into this, started researching alternative medicine because I was kind of like, whatever, it's stretching, you know, it's massage. But I quickly like learned, I was like, holy crap, you got the American Medical Association. We've got like doctors with medical degrees, like for low back pain and for different types of aches and joints. Like they're not giving drugs. They're not turning to drugs. They're saying, you know what, you should try yoga. And then, or medical massage before they're doing things like drugs. So while I first, because Paul proposed the yoga and the massage idea, and at first I was kind of like, you know, it's snake oil. It's not real. It's just stretching. But through my research, I think I've changed my mind. I mean, I've really turned. I'm probably never going to do yoga because I'm fat. I actually wanted to do your class at noon, but I was in Corbin, Kentucky all week with my son for state wrestling because I was actually going to do it because I feel like because I had done the research and really started changing my mind on the benefits, just the medical benefits of it.
Yeah.
But throughout my research as well, I just learned so much about the purpose, I guess, from my understanding of yoga in general is it's kind of narcissistic. If you ask me, it's all about me, right? I'm trying to improve me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be at peace with my mind. And I can tell you this right now, my mind is never at peace.
Yeah.
Yoga would be good.
I agree. So I didn't mean to offend you, but
Oh, you didn't. Not at all. I'm very open to
has
all your
anybody,
opinions.
I can't be the only one that's thought that, right? Have you ever ran into that where people were kind of like, oh, you're go ahead.
I think you kind of made the same. I think you kind of made the same misconception that I did. You know, like before I met Karen, I had bought Rodney Yee's yoga for athletics type stuff and went on YouTube and pull up a yoga program and stuff like that. And I'm under the perception, and I think this is probably a perception held by a lot of people, that yoga is about doing all these poses and trying to increase your flexibility, maybe a little bit of strength training, and it's a good workout sometimes and things like that. And then doing my research, it was like, That's not yoga. That is a small part
Yes.
of yoga.
Yes.
And so before we get Karen to tell us about the history of yoga, Karen, what is yoga?
Yeah, please. We want to know.
You guys look adorable. All right.
You're the expert.
So yoga, let's see, the way that I would like to describe and explain yoga is that it is very much an internal journey. So I was telling Paul earlier that I have a problem with modern day yoga, just because I don't feel like it's true to what yoga really is. Because if you look at the 8 limbs and like the foundations of the practice of yoga, it incorporates a lot of different things like meditation and the asanas, which is the postures, right? Which is what everybody seems to know is just the physical
Crouching Tiger,
health.
Hidden Dragon.
I don't
Whatever.
think
I don't know. That's a movie. Sorry. What is it?
I don't
Downward
think that's
Dog.
the thing. Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
down
that's
dog.
right. Yeah.
Yes. But you've got like all these different elements, and part of these elements, they lead you all the way up into being prepared for meditation, being prepared to go to the inward space, to the highest level of consciousness that you can achieve for yourself. And when you get to that space, you're free from suffering, you're free from pain, you're free from the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the waves of life, right? Because everybody gets triggered. We all get upset or deeply moved by the hardships of the world, or like, a family member dies. Like all these things like really affect us. But the point of yoga is to be unmoved by anything and everything that happens. So to look at suffering and success equally.
What do you mean? What do you mean by unmoved?
Unmoved, to be still, to be at rest.
Like emotionally, or
all of it.
everything?
Everything. Unmoved, just to be still on the inside, so you can heal, and so you can live a more authentic version of yourself. Because when you are operating from fear or from judgment or from a belief system that was handed down to you, that's not authentic. It's like it's an illusion. You're portraying this version of yourself to other people because of all these things that you're holding on to, or whatever. Just if you're in an environment and everyone believes or is acting a certain way and you want to fit in, you're being moved by that energy. You're being influenced by your surroundings. But to be unmoved, to be still, to be centered in you is the path of yoga. To go from being this human person body, just walking the earth, being triggered and having the outbursts and all these ups and downs, to resting and surrendering completely.
Sounds like you need to go to some liberal schools. A lot of those kids are triggered by a lot.
Yeah.
But you said
everybody is.
But you mentioned like the I guess modern day yoga. So what's your issue with that? And what is modern day yoga?
So what I see in modern yoga, in some of the classes that I've taken, it's I do think that what they're trying to do is make it more accessible to people that have a problem with thinking that yoga is like this religious practice. But the problem that I have with these classes being called yoga is that they don't incorporate all the teachings, the actual purpose of yoga. It's just the movement, physical health, and you go home and you still operate from the same mental space that you did before you took the class, right? Before you do this practice. Because like I said, so yoga is the path to liberation. Yoga is the path to freedom from suffering and pain. So to be able to comb out the distractions and to operate from a place of serenity, if you're going to this yoga class and all they're doing is teaching you how to be strong and flexible, that's awesome. But it's not yoga.
It's stretching.
It's stretching. It's a stretch class, and that's totally okay. That is totally awesome because, the stretching and the strength building, they have the benefits. I'm all about it. But my problem is when they call it yoga, because they're not actually incorporating all the aspects of what yoga really is.
Do you think that some of that's like a cash grab?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, we're capitalistic society, right? So there's money to be made
It's
somewhere.
a hip
Somebody's
term.
gonna,
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, I want to be cool and, new age, or, like do all these cool chakra stuff. And it's a yoga class. Like, let me try that out. And all they're doing is stretching. And then they come home. They're like, wow, that was amazing. And then they go and do some unfavorable things.
like heroin or something.
Like anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not free.
So when you were talking about like the liberation and the liberation from suffering and things like that, I ran across the stuff too. It's talking about no suffering and no pleasure and things like that. You're not suggesting that yoga is like shooting for like an emotionless type of person.
No.
I mean, like,
Paul, speak into the microphone, please.
not okay. My bad. I mean, you're not suggesting that it's an emotionless type state that you're left in. Like, I got this image of Mr. Spock from Star Trek, where he just goes around and refuse.
He's a robot.
No.
He's like a robot. Yeah, that's not what you're suggesting. Right?
No. It's it's a state of mind, and excuse me. It's not like you need to, to practice yoga, you do the class, and then you live your life totally void of all feelings, all emotions, all experiences. That's not it. You can use yoga as a moment to give yourself time to sit in a space, to reach, what they call chitta, which is becoming your highest version of yourself, your highest consciousness, right?
If you got to do that, there's a bathroom right there.
No. So being totally just present. So basically connecting your will with the will of God, right? So just being centered, being free from, like I said, the ebbs and flows of life. That doesn't mean, to be empty. You live your life, but the thing that can be different for you in your waking life, when you're operating with other people, is when somebody says something to you that you don't agree with or that is immoral, you don't feel triggered and you don't react from a place of that trigger, right? So you don't have your emotional outbursts. You can meet people with compassion.
No, you don't. I do.
Well, you said that you didn't do yoga.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. That's true.
you
That's
don't
true. That's
meditate,
true. That's true.
But that's the thing. That's like something I would like to get across is like that you can be in life and enjoy life and have fun and eat good food and just be yourself, but you don't allow other people's energy or other people's actions to move you, to affect you. You get to choose how you feel. You get to choose how you want to respond. It's not like some automatic fight or flight, reptilian reaction. You know what I mean? It's like something that you can take a breath, process, and then respond.
So what are some of the other things? The posturing and the stretching and all that's called asanas, right?
Asanas, yeah.
Asanas. Okay, and so what are the other limbs? What are the other things that encompass yoga besides the posturing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's get into that.
And by the way, I think Paul and I are probably going to mispronounce every word.
That's okay.
I'm doing my
Same here.
research. I'm like, what's...
Yeah, you're going to correct a lot of
I'm
what
like,
we
what's
say.
what's an ashmani? What?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all right. Some of the words I can't really get either, so totally okay. So the first limb out of the 8 for yoga, it would be yama, morality, right? And then you've got niyama, self-purification by discipline. You've got the asana, which is posture, right, for health and for strength. You got pranayama, breath control. That is super powerful. It's amazing. So these are going in the order of like getting you up to your space of consciousness, like the highest level of consciousness, right? So you go in this order, relatively. And then you've got pratyahara. So releasing yourself from external distraction, being free from external distraction. You've got dharana, concentration. dhyana, meditation, and then samadhi, so the highest level of consciousness.
Which is, so is this like a 12-step program?
No, this is kind of like what I was talking about with so modern day yoga. I feel like modern day yoga kind of stops at the first 3-ish. So like, being moral, being kind to your neighbor, right? And being disciplined. Those two have to do with being able to show up for your community and kind of prepare you for your external body for this practice, right? So you've just got this preparation. And then you go into the pranayama and the pratyahara, and that's the breath work. So being able to regulate your breathing and control your mind. And that helps free you from desire, which on another note, desire is a huge influence to your state of being, your happiness.
Now, are you saying like you don't have desire, or just that your desire doesn't affect how you live your life?
You're free from desire.
But what does that mean? Like, 'cause I desire chocolate, right? Does that mean I no longer like chocolate, or does that mean like I no longer
You're not controlled by
chocolate?
Yes, you're not controlled by chocolate.
Because I used to be controlled by bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to be medically, taken off of that.
But yeah, the desire, like I said, so the desire is an act of control over you. If you desire, your bourbon,
I don't anymore, but
right. But when it did, it probably controlled a huge part of your life, right?
Every day, every night.
Your actions, your choices.
I'd come into
may have
jiu-jitsu
revolved around bourbon, right?
Yeah, I'd come to jiu-jitsu in the morning, and everybody's like, you stink.
No. Well, I didn't really see in the morning.
No, you smell like drinking all night.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, that's an episode for another day, because that was a sore time in my life, but luckily I got to it before I became homeless.
So that kind of just filled in a big hole for us in terms of what yoga is, because to me, that was a big misconception that I had, was that yoga was nothing more than the stretching and the poses and stuff like that. Yeah. So now that you've kind of filled that in on us, tell us, how did yoga start? Where did it start? How did it come about? And take us through that timeline.
All right, I'm going into the history now.
It's okay. We all get choked up a little.
That's right.
Yeah. So
it's an emotional topic.
It is.
Yeah.
But
it's so great.
You did mention something here, like yoga is not a religion, though, right?
No.
So, but I kind of like was reading that. I thought, oh, that's just some hippie cult stuff. Really, honestly, going into it, but there's no belief system. Like you're not worshiping a god,
right? The thing that I think a lot of people, I don't know, I guess get mixed up about for yoga being religious is its association with Buddhism,
Buddha.
Hinduism, Jainism, all these different religions. But
Satanism?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Well,
But I don't know.
hey,
maybe
listen,
there
you
is
can worship
satanic
Satan and do
yoga.
yoga.
Yeah, it's true. It's
There's
true.
tantric yoga.
It's not religious. And that's the thing. It's a spiritual practice. It's actually a spiritual science is really what it is. And it started off as like a philosophy. And Patanjali, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
It is. So I researched it. I had Google pronounce it for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So what he did is so yoga has been around like way before him. But what he did is he kind of gave us a breakdown, the foundation. So the Yoga Sutras, which, part of the Yoga Sutras is the 8 limbs of yoga that we just went over. So he gave a breakdown for yoga as what he believed would be good for people to understand for spiritual health. He also, I guess, made the foundations, is the best way I can describe it, for Ayurvedic medicine, which is physical health, right? So, and then he also wrote down like another framework for social health, but we won't get into that one. But yeah, so he wrote down the foundations for what we see as the framework for yoga, Ayurvedic, all that kind of stuff.
And when
for
was
today.
that?
This was like I think he wrote it in 400 CE era, something like that. That's what I keep reading. But like I said, so because yoga was way before his time, when I read these different books and done this research, there's so many different eras for, you know, classical yoga to Patanjali to all these other makeups.
Yeah, I read that too, and to me, being an outsider, having no idea, it almost felt like an evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a lot of transcribing. So it's like, you know, you write it down on these leaves, somebody finds them, they decipher them, and then somebody else finds them and they translate to another language, and then it keeps going from there.
But yoga is like thousands of years old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So when did the first person, like, you know, cross their toes and
Man, I don't even know. That's forever ago. You know what I think though? I feel like when you look into Tai Chi, Qigong, you know, the fluid movements, which is very similar to yoga, just a different practice. But like, if you go all the way back to the beginning, these people, the very first of their, you know, the start of all this, they look to nature and they mimic the movements of animals and the trees and the grass, and they bring it into their body. So they're connecting their body self to nature and creating these movements to instigate healing and balance, right? Because the thing is with these cultures in the East is that they believe that all of the universe exists within you. All of it.
I mean, that's actually scientifically true.
Right? Right? Yeah. I guess
We are.
jazzed.
I mean, ask who's the famous physicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, he's physically said that you are the universe. The universe is you.
Every atom in our body is billions of years old.
Yeah.
Isn't this just amazing? Dude,
Yeah.
I get so jazzed.
What I've read is it started in like India in the Himalayas, along some lake that I can't pronounce, in like 2700 BC, like the first kind of recorded.
I saw some stuff about the Vedas, which you could probably tell us more about.
Oh, like
But-
the Vedics. I think that's like
Yeah. So
And
like I said, mispronouncing everything.
Oh,
We're gonna do that.
but that was the first
Yeah.
that was like the first written record of yoga practices was in the Vedas, and we're talking about from today's date. You're talking about 3,200 years ago, 3,200
Yeah.
years ago. I mean, we're going
is
way
some
back for
history.
recorded history, right?
Yeah, it's
You know,
so cool.
Yeah, that's what I like about just doing this show is like you don't realize how old something is. Because I mean, I've only lived in this world for as long as I can remember. And that's only 38 years old. So to me, yoga was started in the 1990s. You could tell me that and I'd believe it, right? I mean, because I don't know, but
with Jane Fonda.
yeah, do workout takes by Fonda. Sorry, I'm getting off topic here.
And Karen's wondering who Jane Fonda is.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
so
I
that's
don't
Jane
know
Fonda.
the reference. I'm sorry.
She's some big 1980s workout chick, had a bunch of workout tapes, Thigh Master and all that stuff. But so like I said, I kind of went into this with I guess a skewed. Well, you said it earlier, like judgment. Like I had some judgment against it. Like it's just some hippie crap that's stretching. And like I said, I can only be honest, right? Because
No, you need to be honest.
you know, but I mean, my mind has definitely changed. But when I started looking at this, I'm like, okay. I was like, at first, I'm like, yep, sounds about right. 2,700, some hippie in the hills, you know, doing some fancy stretches. But then I started reading into, you know, the purpose of it, right? What which you've touched on, the being one with yourself, and that sounds very amazing to me. Like to get to that state where I can come home and I can't say I had a bad day at work, because you are right about that. Like if a judge pisses me off, or if another attorney is a complete asshole to me, it affects how I feel about me. And you said it perfectly. Like, this is like one of the, I guess, the limbs is like not allowing others to affect you. And I think from an overall standpoint, I try to, without even knowing it, I teach that to my kids. Like, somebody can't lower your self-esteem.
Yes.
That's what I tell my daughter all the time. I was like, that boy cannot lower your
Yes.
self-esteem, because you know why? It's the word self is in it. Like, it's your esteem. It's yours. Like, only you can raise or lower it. Now, that boy can say some nasty things. He can do some nasty things. He can spread nasty rumors, but only you let it affect you.
You give those words power.
Yeah. And I was like, well, when I read that, I was like, I'm practically a yogi now. I was like, man, but I'm
It's
not,
in
because
your nature, you know?
it is. That's what I'm reading. I'm like, all these things, even though it's not a religion, I'm like, these are like the building blocks of being a good person.
Yes. Or being whole.
So we've said this a couple of times now, that yoga is not a religion. And so I got a feeling that a lot of people at home are going to be a little bit confused by this, because Hinduism is possibly the oldest living religion on the planet right now. And Buddhism and Jainism are also from that same area of the world. They're both from India. And they're not as old as Hinduism, but they're also what you would probably call an ancient religion also. And yoga is interwoven through those religions. So how do we get to, and myself included, need help with this, but there's probably a lot of people going to listen to this and say, well, wait a minute, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, they all incorporate yoga into their practices. But you're saying it's not a religion. So how do we get that separation? And why are they interwoven? And how do we get the separation?
I would say first off to understand that yoga is a practice, right? It's whereas religion requires faith. You have to just believe that what this person in charge of your church, your group, your belief system, whatever they're saying, whatever was written for you it is the way. So that requires faith. That is number one for religion. Whereas yoga, because it's a self-practice, because it's about going within you and just discovering your wholeness, your peace, your, like I keep saying, your highest level of consciousness, which really just is just being at home in your body and not allowing external forces to affect you, to be in that space. So those are two completely different things. You've got the path of the self, and then you've got religion. And those religions are using the path of the self probably to build upon their belief system. So it's like a building block. It's a brick. It's a step. So they can incorporate that and weave it in pretty easily. Also because it did originate from the same area of the world. So if you think about like the language being very like just melding right into it, it's very easy to blend those things. Whereas like I said, so with yoga evolving and coming over here to the West and expanding, all over the world, being accessible to all people, you don't have to believe or practice yoga with the faith of, Lord Shiva or Shakti or all these Hindu gods and ideologies. You can practice morality, you can practice breath control, you can practice meditation in your own way. You can make it accessible. And that's why it's like, from my studies, what I understand about yoga is that it is outside of religion, so it can be accessible to all people.
So you don't need to practice some religion in order to practice yoga.
No, not at all. I mean, you go within yourself. You finding the whole point is to go inside. And if you have a Christian faith and then your cousin's got a Buddhist faith and you guys are both going within yourselves, what does it matter what your neighbor's doing? What does it matter what somebody else is saying about their interpretation of their yoga practice? It's about you.
And one thing that you've said, that completely has changed my mind already is what it means to practice yoga. Because when I thought of practicing yoga, I thought of stretching and trying not to fart. And
you should let
now,
yourself fart.
Well,
You'll feel better.
I've never done yoga, so. But it sounds like what you're saying is practicing yoga. The stretching sounds like a very small part of it, as far as the overall goal here.
Yeah, it went the way yoga used to be is from the beginning you would sit in one posture, one asana for a while, sometimes hours.
Oh, oof.
Yeah, you would sit for hours and you would go within to find what that pose or what the mantra or what word was given to you on what that means. So you find the answers to your question, to the word, to the posture. You find the answers within yourself. Whereas modern day yoga is more of like, an aerobic dance class. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fast movements, which is great. But that's part of the evolution of yoga. That's not how it started.
And to your point, because no one's giving you the answers to your questions, it can't be a religion.
Correct.
Because I was
how I
born
feel
and raised
about it.
Catholic.
Yet there are religious, like in my studies, I found there were Hindu groups that were taking offense to the fact that yoga was being taught in the abstract from Hinduism. They felt that this was and maybe they feel proprietary about it, like this is from our country, this is from this has been
you need to respect our
it's been with us for 4,000
right.
5,000 years or whatever and stuff like that. But there were Hindu groups who have been very, very vocal about the fact that yoga is being taught without the Hindu influence being injected into it. And even Buddha is he is credited, whether he did or not, but Buddha is credited with creating his own yoga system.
I didn't know about that.
And was he really fat?
Well,
I don't think so.
All
no.
the stats say he was.
Because,
the
like, I mean,
is about fullness.
do you know how many
That's
times-
why he's so large.
Oh, you know how many times I've been called Buddha in my life?
Well, Buddha came from a rich family though too, and one of the hallmarks of being rich in the old days was if you were overweight, that was actually a sign of attractiveness. That was telling people, "Hey,
But
I've got money."
He left his palace.
Yes, he did.
And so he experienced.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Yeah, so he left his rich life because he wanted to see, what was on the outside of the walls, and he saw all the sick, the poor. Whereas inside the walls, everybody's healthy and plenty to eat. And he was like, man, fuck this. I'm out. And so he went on a walk, right? And he was just like, I got to figure out what the truth is. And then, I don't think he was fat for very long because, he starved himself. He sat under a tree and just meditated and became really hungry. And then the funny thing is he realized he's like, starving is stupid,
That's right.
And so he's like, he came to all these realizations through himself. By taking that time to sit under the tree, realizing, hey, I don't have to starve to reach enlightenment. It was his path. It was part of his path, but you don't have to do that. And that's the thing. He's like, here, this is all the hard work I did, and now you guys can, take this and run with it. But to what you said about the Hindu religion being upset about other cultures or other places taking over yoga and not incorporating all those important aspects. It's exactly what I was saying about why modern yoga bothers me. And I can't speak for the Hindu religion, but my guess is because these places are capitalizing on the term yoga and they're not actually teaching yoga. They're teaching a stretch class and then they're calling it yoga. And I mean, if you're from the part of the world where it all started and you're just like, what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah, it's this ancient practice.
It's
that's
ancient, it's sacred, it's powerful.
And now it's turned into a multi-billion-dollar industry with like
It's sick.
yoga clothing, yoga
Yeah.
books, yoga DVDs.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Everyone wants to look all
commercial.
hot.
You know,
Oh,
Crazy.
yoga pants. It's yoga pants season. But I'm going to play devil's advocate on that one too, because isn't, from the research that I've done early on, they, you know, I can't pronounce the guy's name, so I'm not even going to try. But kind of the original, I guess the founder sent, I don't want to say disciples because that sounds religious, but he sent practitioners out to Central America, Asia, South Africa, and Africa to spread the word. So it sounds like to me that was the goal, is to kind of get this out to everybody. And when I say I'm playing devil's advocate, because those people that are kind of capitalizing on it, they are getting the word out, but in a kind of very, I guess, negative way.
In an incomplete version of yoga.
And that's why you're here.
That's my stance.
You're here.
It drives me nuts. I'm like, it's incomplete. Why are you calling it yoga?
But don't you think that there has to be, of those, you know, those large classes that are just doing stretching, you bring your Starbucks in and you bought your Lululemon pants for this. Do you think there's maybe a small percentage of those types of people who are going to these stretching classes, we'll call them, who actually start to dive deeper into it and start to become actual practitioners?
I think so. Absolutely. I because, you know, depending on what your soul calls from you, what you are open to hearing from your soul, if you attend this class and you realize that there's something deeper, like you have these movements and you're resting in Savasana, so you're laying down, you know, it's the end of class, you've got a few minutes here, maybe a couple seconds, but you're just resting. And then you experience like a taste of emptiness or a taste of bliss or just something. You can kind of just sense that there's something more.
Okay, so what does emptiness feel like?
Oh my God.
So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because I want to ask you about a lot of these terms that we hear that are associated with yoga. And it's like, and I want to say, you know, because what is it? What is a yogi talking about when he's talking about this? So when you talk about emptiness, what are you talking about?
Oh man. So it's like to be absolute observer. I think it might be the best way that I can describe it. So it's like we're sitting here together, you know, it's like, you know, I see you, I hear stuff, you know, I've got my thoughts and I'm like judging or observing, you know, I'm making all of these points in my brain about what my experience is, right? To be empty is to just sit and be present. And you have no thought, you have no judgment, you have no experience besides just existing. It's like being alive, and that's it. That's as far as it goes.
It sounds like nirvana.
Yes. It's amazing.
I can't imagine it. I really can't.
So one of the terms that you hear a lot, like in yoga, is like it helps you expand your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
what
it's
is
usually
that?
followed by man.
Man,
yeah.
You know, but what does it mean to expand your consciousness?
So it's, you know, like I was saying, you know, you've got your experience here, and like this is, if you think about it, this is probably as far as what your thought process is going. It's just what's going on in this room, right? You might be thinking about your kids, maybe, you know, or you might be thinking of other stuff, just whatever. It's like you're here. To expand your consciousness is to get a taste of experiencing all of life. So to sit outside, just like think about that. If you want, you can even close your eyes and just like try this out. You imagine yourself just sitting outside and you can feel the sun on your skin and you feel the grass under your hips and under your legs, and you hear a bee buzzing by. What is that bee experiencing? What is that bee's life like? So maybe you send your mind, your awareness into the bee, and you follow the bee, and you see the world from the bee's eyes, and you just follow it. You just experience life there. And then maybe you leave the bee, and maybe you go up into the clouds. And what is the clouds feeling? What is the cloud seeing? What is the cloud experiencing? And maybe you go a little bit further from there, and you go into the vast space, and you just experience the darkness that's holding the stars. And you just notice what's going on there. Maybe you're seeing the world from the viewpoint of darkness. And then you just bring yourself back to your body.
I
And
got
then you come back here. That's what
Right?
that's for me.
That was the most beautiful thing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
and
glad.
I know there's somebody out there listening going, fucking hippie bullshit. But I'm telling you, that
Someone's
was the
hitting a
most.
bowling right now, going hell yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not even high right now, and that was, I got cold chills. Like that was,
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's amazing.
I've never. I mean, I can't talk right now. I don't. I can't.
But there's and what Karen just and this is again for me, someone who's like, I've not experienced what Karen has, and probably most of us in the West have not. Now,
Closest I've gotten is shrooms.
right? But you hear this, you hear these terms a lot when it comes to yoga, and I'm going to read to you something I found, and this is the kind of stuff that I kind of like. I read this and I'm like going, I have no freaking idea what they're talking about. But yoga is the union of body, mind, and spirit, the individual to the universal. Yoga is realizing the connection between the finite and the infinite, the manifest and the unmanifest. Yoga is bringing harmony in thought, word, and deed.
Oh, it's amazing. Yes.
It wasn't
All
as
of it.
amazing as what you said. I promise. That was amazing.
Thank you.
But-
That's so sweet.
But what does all that mean?
What does it mean? Oh my
Yes.
god.
Yeah, I honestly, I can't imagine it. I there's a lot of things I can imagine. I can imagine, space and what it's like out there without ever like being there. But everything that you're describing, I personally think that I would have to experience it.
Yes.
And even if I experienced it, I don't think I could explain it to somebody else who's never experienced it, which is why I said as close as I've been is shrooms, maybe DMT. No, DMT, I went to a whole new universe. But because what you're explaining to me, I can't mentally comprehend because I think because I have those blocks, right? I have all those blocks in place of letting others affect me. And
is it because we're from the Western mindset?
yeah,
Whereas in the Eastern cultures, they're much more open, I think, to this kind of exploration, and it's really what it is. It's an exploration of your psyche. It's an exploration of yourself, and connecting with everything else.
Yeah.
But in the West, we grew up that's frowned on, right?
Well, in the West, it's a lot of it's really common for households to structure the belief system of their children. They make their offspring believe a certain way and then operate throughout the world in a certain way. So they create this framework that this kid has to live their life by. And that's not of the free will of the child. So when the child grows up, they have these blocks that have just been set in place for them. And so, of course, you're going to walk around through the world and then you hear this stuff and you can't even comprehend what freedom and divine universal consciousness even would be.
but wouldn't that people who practice yoga, wouldn't they have their kids practice yoga as well?
No, it's not.
Like I said, that's like I said, that's coming from my mind and kind of.
Yeah. Of course, like as a parent, you would want to share something that you value and cherish with your child, right? And that's one thing.
Well, I've never shared bourbon with my kids.
Oh,
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
that is good.
I valued and cherished that a lot.
But if a yogi, someone who practices yoga all the way through, they share that with their kid and their kid has no interest in it, why would they force them? Why should anybody, just because you
Because you're my
believe
kid, damn it.
Oh God, no! That's the thing.
You do what I
with
say.
religion, or with practices,
Karen,
with
stay away from my kids.
atheism, just anything that you believe, you can share that. I think you can share that with your kid, but allow your child to have the freedom to make their own choices and to explore the world as themselves, as the God that lives within them, not through your lens, not through your experiences. Let them choose.
So let me ask you, Karen, because I knew you grew up in a loving household, traditional household, and in a Christian household, right?
Right.
Okay. So what led you to how did you break that mold? And not that it's a bad mold, or I'm not judging.
Right,
I'm not trying to judge it, but what got you down this road to explore yoga and to take this different path?
Man.
And do you consider breaking the mold? Because you said that, yoga and religion are separate, but they can be interwoven and entwined. So do you consider yourself as breaking the mold?
I did. But yeah, I broke the mold long before I found yoga. So the reason that I stepped away from the Christian religion, even though, let me just preface this. So, I grew up Christian, and even from a kid, like, I could see and sense angels, and I could hear the different, at the time I would describe it as like, I can hear the voice of God, and I can hear the difference between God's voice and Christ's voice. It's like very distinct, like I could tell. And at this time I could even use the language of frequency, like the frequency of what I would experience from God's guidance to Christ's guidance to a specific angel's guidance. Like I can sense the difference in that frequency and in those experiences. And the way that I was brought up with the Christian religion was very much like, don't ask questions, just believe what I tell you. Yeah. This is just how it is. Everything in the Bible is 100% factual history, which, when I went to Thomas More and I took the theology courses, I found out that,
that's not true.
Is that true?
I took the same classes.
Yeah, right. So, but it was like still beautiful to have that experience, to understand what parables were, right? The stories, the examples,
I took understanding the Old Testament.
I can't even remember what I took.
Oh my God, it was so eye-opening.
Oh, was it good?
Because I grew up the same way, right? And especially Catholic, there's a lot of don't do that, you're going to go to hell type of stuff.
Did Father Kettler teach your course?
No, not Father Kettler. It was some.
He's a spooky guy.
No, he's a great guy.
He's a good guy, but no, it wasn't Father Kettler. But I try to. The more we talk, the more I'm thinking I'm a yogi. Okay, because I'm Catholic. I still raise my kids Catholic, but my wife is very, very traditional, and I grew up with that Catholic guilt. And to be completely honest, like every time I masturbated, I thought I was going to go to hell and die. And
see, that's so fucked up and sad.
Right? Isn't it? And I still feel that guilt today, like a little bit. But I always promise myself, because I know there's nothing wrong with it. I know there's nothing wrong with, finding another person attractive and imagining things, right? Not evil things, but whereas like I want, and I always promise myself that I am not going to have my kids grow up. I want them to know, safety. Like, this is your body. You respect it. There are certain things you can do that are healthy and that are fine. There are certain things that aren't healthy. But my wife is very, very traditional, and like she's like, no, don't do that. That's bad. And she still, and her and I, that's probably one of the biggest arguments we get all the time, is because, like, if my son wants to get his hair cut into a mullet, I say, it's your hair. I don't like it, but do it. It's yours if it makes you happy.
See, I love and respect that, because you're giving that child freedom of
talk to my wife.
expression. And well, it's really important, so that way the child doesn't grow up into an adult that experiences shame, guilt, fear every day just because they're thinking or talking. Like, I'm still even working through using my voice, because I grew up being shut down, not allowed to express myself, not allowed to ask questions, not allowed to say, hey, I'm upset and I need help. I wasn't allowed to do any of that. So I shut down really early on and kept everything to myself. And, and like that kind of led me, I guess, into breaking free from the religion, with the classes and everything, and finding out, like, okay, God is beyond this book that everyone in my household, my family, and has been like drilling into my mind. God's bigger than this book. Where is he? Like, how can I experience God on a more tangible level, right? And then I started exploring, honestly, the metaphysics section at Half Price Books. I started there, and I read everything. I read about numerology, palmistry, all the things. There's so many different avenues. And what that showed me is to see God in everything, in the person that's talking to you that just happens to know the exact right thing to say at the right moment. That's God.
So I love the way that you said it earlier when you were talking about religion being a faith-based thing, and that yoga is actually a tangible physical path to self-improvement and awareness and all that kind of stuff. Yet yoga has been a target for organized religion. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church.
I think people are afraid of what they don't understand.
Well, and you've got Muslim countries that have banned yoga. They've issued fatwas against yoga. Of course, the non-Catholic churches here in the United States, in several areas of this country, have put yoga in the gun sites and gone after it.
Why?
Why? Yeah, exactly. That was my question. Why do you think that is? Because the way you explained it, where it's a personal path to self-improvement and kind of finding yourself and dealing with your emotions dealing with all the things that you talked about.
Well, that's exactly why I think it's being attacked. It's because it's liberation, it's freedom.
But they should be able to coexist, and they don't want it to.
Oh no. Well, you don't have control.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that sounds like the real reason, but what's their rationale?
Well, with the Roman Catholic Church, and if you want to give me, let me pull out my notes here. Yeah, I mean, so the Roman Catholic Church, they've expressed concern and disapproved of yoga and meditation as being inconsistent with Christian teachings, and so and I'm looking at this today, and I'm going, why is that inconsistent? And the reason the Muslim countries, several, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and several local countries have issued regional fatwas. They believe that it's grounded in Hinduism, and therefore it's blasphemy to practice a different religion in those countries. So, I mean, you've got different reasons for why they're doing this. But even here in the United States, we've had for a long time, yoga was being taught in many schools, and it still is, by the way, at the university level and the high school level. But you had several counties, San Diego County, Cobb County, the entire state of Alabama. I mean, they banned yoga from being taught in schools as a violation of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, which is, as you know, Jay, the Establishment Clause deals with religion.
Yep.
Okay. And so obviously they're looking at it from a religious point of view, and they're saying, oh, you can't do yoga and in our schools because, we're not allowed to establish one religion over another. We're not allowed to have a preference of one religion over another. And the way Karen explains it to me, I love your explanation, and it makes total sense to me also, by the way, but why do you, and I know you said to control, but you think that's the sole reason, or?
Well, I mean, if you think about, what religion has been over time, it's been a means of, of control and having the people act or, group into certain ways for certain reasons. And all religions think that they're the almighty. All religions think like, we're number one and everybody else.
It's clearly Catholics, though.
Yeah.
Everybody else is wrong.
Everyone's wrong. It's crazy. I'm like, do you? Oh my gosh!
Well,
I'll calm down. But
all religions,
I get a little.
It's okay
I need to practice yoga. I'm like, oh gosh, I need to
don't let them affect your mood, Karen.
I know. Oh man, that's the thing. It's like I think so.
Karen's gonna go home and meditate as soon as we get out here because she'll get a
always.
little fired up.
And you get fired up, you got to go back to the roots. What is it? What's it from? But yeah, I mean, it's all about who wants to be right and maintain control, and with the misunderstanding that yoga is something that has to be a religious practice, and it's a forcing of something. Like, I don't know. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, but you said, I mean, every religion out there involves some type of faith. What you've described to me is what yoga is. I don't see faith.
No. It's philosophy. It's a science. It's the exploration of self. You don't need faith to sit and do a walking meditation. You don't need faith to do breath work. You don't, that's not a requirement. Whereas with religions, faith is the main part.
I have a CPAP machine that does my breath work at night when I sleep.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
It's good.
And just for clarification's sake, for our listeners out there, San Diego County, Cobb County, and the state of Alabama have reversed their prohibitions on yoga, but they're not allowed to say namaste. They're not allowed to do any of the mantras and stuff like that. And
it's crazy because namaste is like.
Doesn't it mean I bow to you?
It's like your light, your energy, your light honors the light within this other person. Like you, it's like touching your forehead to somebody else's forehead. It's just like, I bow to you. I respect you as you are.
And again,
who I am honors who you are.
And that's an Eastern cultural thing because, when we greet somebody, we shake their hand. When we say, when we leave, we shake, hey, good to see you. We shake your hand again. And what do they do in the East? They don't shake hands. They bow to each other. And that's what I was reading that, and I go, well, that's absolutely silly that they would this word that means I bow to you, which is just basically saying hello to somebody. It's a greeting.
Yeah.
It's
that's the thing. It's like people just have their ideas, the things that they just don't understand. And that's really all that it comes down to. They don't understand it, so they ban it.
And I think a lot of the problem with society, and I'll just call it American society today, is everybody wants to quote their opinions as facts.
Yes.
So when they say that yoga is this, yoga is that, that's their opinion. It's what it is, but they're stating it as if it's an established fact, which I think is a problem overall, and it's a problem not for this podcast to be solved because we can't talk for 6 weeks about this.
It's a complex topic.
It's deep.
So you earlier got pretty fired up about the religion and people. You got pretty angry about it. You let that affect your mood. So is the nirvana, I guess is what they call it, right? That you try to reach. Is it something that you can accomplish and you stay there, or is that something where you kind of fall in and out of that state? Let's call it.
I'm trying to remember his name.
Joseph.
No, it'll come to me. He is
David.
Ram Dass. Oh
Okay.
have you guys listened
I
to
was
Ram
close.
Dass?
I was close.
Probably not.
No,
need
it
to.
sounds like a pretty cool band name, honestly.
No, it's amazing. He's amazing. So he actually brought something up like that. So Ram Dass explained that, it really isn't possible to maintain the experience of nirvana constant. You could disappear and go into the mountains and live by yourself. Maybe you can experience nirvana because you're not affected by somebody you don't agree with, or you're not
can't be.
Yeah, or traffic or anything. Like, you can't be affected by much besides the weather. But if you're meditating all the time, you have no one to talk to, no other influences, that you might be able to achieve being unmoved. But here in reality, in life,
Modern society.
no. And it's okay. It's okay to be moved, but to not stay in that space. To recognize it. It's the self-awareness. Is to be like, wow, that bothered me. That triggered me. I have work to do.
So I guess with that Ramadan guy,
Ram Dass.
Ram Dass. I'm sorry, Ramadan's a religion, or
like,
is it? It's a holiday, right? I don't know.
It's part
I'm
of it.
stupid.
It's part of Islam.
Okay, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I apologize. But if you stated earlier, like the main point of yoga, I don't want to say main point, one of the tenets of yoga is to not let other outside influences affect you. Well, if you go into the woods and live your life there's no outside influences to let that happen to. So how can you reach nirvana if there's nothing to keep out? Right? I mean,
you still have weather influences and starvation,
Yeah, nope. You gotta hunt you gotta kill your own food.
Yeah, you
Bird,
got
a
to
bird
be good
could
at it.
drop it on your head,
And how am I gonna watch Netflix? Yeah.
Exactly.
So they're minimalized, but nobody wants to live. But if you,
But then you're
your point,
alone.
and it's not realistic.
No.
Although I did meet a man once who lived in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Did you really?
Absolutely, he was fucking crazy.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
Lived by himself. Said he'd lived by himself since he was 13 years old, making moonshine, and he didn't need nobody. I said, "Well, you need a
it's
dentist."
him and his moonshine.
Yeah, but
Oh, he has some good shine now. Uncle Pete.
what were you going to say, Paul?
Sorry.
Well, getting away from the religion thing, because it's kind of crazy. Because I thought of something as chill as yoga was not going to be a controversial subject, and as I get into this, it's like, oh wow, it's quite controversial. But there are some schools of yoga that think you have to be vegetarian.
Oh.
Where you stand on that?
Are you silly too? I mean, are you vegetarian as well?
Oh, that's hilarious. No, I'm not. But when I was in yoga school, I did go through a period where I explored being vegetarian, mostly for my health. And it's funny because when you're in that kind of environment, and the thing too, why I would think that they would require you to be vegan, vegetarian, or whatever, is the purification, right? Because plants, fruits, vegetables, sprouts, all that kind of stuff, they're living things that are still alive when you consume them. So they have this level of energy. You consume that energy, your body is filled with energy. Whereas with meat, it's deceased. It's a creature that has passed. You don't know how long it's been dead, honestly. I mean, you think about the time from when it's been butchered to the time being on the truck to the packaging to the store and then finally to your fridge. And then it's probably going to be in your fridge for a few more days before you actually cook it.
You're making that steak sound a lot less appetizing right now.
I'm hungry. I actually want steak.
That's
You know what I heard? I heard if you're vegetarian, your food's still screaming and crying when you eat it.
But it's alive, and that's the
Yeah,
thing.
you're
It's
eating a living thing. It's still
fuel.
alive. You're
It's
disgusting
fuel.
vegetarians.
And so when you consume meat, because it doesn't have that vibrant energy, that living energy, when you consume it, you're pretty much ready for bed, right? You're feeling pretty tired, or maybe you're like really stuffed and you're like, whew, all right, I need to sit for a little bit, digest, and then I can move. Whereas, with the vegetarian diet, you stay energized as long as you're getting the right nutrients. Now, I mean, if you're not eating the right things or getting a certain amount of, protein and magnesium and all that good stuff, then you're probably going to be tired or have a really hard time with your health.
Yeah, I mean, Fritos are vegetarian.
Okay, but the thing with like being in yoga school and like being in that environment of like this like soul journey, you want to be pure. And it's not even like the influence of your friends like being vegan. It's just like, man, you know what? This veggie sandwich sounds a lot better than eating like steak and mashed potatoes. It's weird.
You're never going to convince me.
Because steak and mashed potatoes is really good, but because I know I want to meditate and I want to do this really long yoga practice, I know I need to eat light. I know I need to eat vibrant in order to sustain that, right? And for me, I went through that because I was like, I don't know. I was having a lot of issues with my health, and I took a break. It was actually pretty amazing. So at the time I was, I think, oh my God, that's so weird. It was longer ago than I thought. We'll just say I was like around 25. I'm 28 now. So that was a couple years ago. And so for years, I suffered from really bad joint pain in my knees, which is weird for a 20-something-year-old to have knee pain. That's kind of odd. I had x-rays done. I saw all the doctors. I went to homeopathic. I went to everywhere. No one could figure out what was wrong with my knees. They're like, your knees are structurally fine. Like, I don't know what to tell you. My wrist. For years longer than my knees, I wasn't able to flex or extend my wrist because it was just so painful. It was awful. So I had this joint pain. And so when I was in yoga school, and just like feeling this like purification experience, I started shedding away little things at a time. So like maybe, for a couple months, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to see what happens if I don't eat steak, or I'm going to see what happens if I don't eat any meat. And what happened is my joint pain went away completely, gone. And I was like, that's weird. Why do I feel good? Like, I don't understand. And so
it's a very non-inflammatory diet, though.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, for a few months, like that was my diet. And I could tell as soon as I would have because I love steak tacos, like that's what I grew up on. My mom's Mexican, so I always had the best.
I did not know that.
You didn't?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So the best food. And I noticed every time I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to help myself to a steak or some steak tacos. I would be in so much pain for days. And so I'm like, all right, I really got to let this go. And so probably about a year into, being vegetarian, I started reintroducing chicken and turkey. And that didn't hurt. That didn't bother me. I was like, okay, I can eat this. And I feel better. I'm able to put on some more weight and do all this other stuff. And then to now, pretty much I still have an issue with red meat, but I can eat like a burger or a steak every once in a while. So once every couple months, I really don't have any problems. But if I have it too much, then yes, very inflammatory.
So you've mentioned this several times now, yoga school.
Yes.
And so tell the audience out there a little bit, what you had to do to become a yogi. What did yoga school comprise of?
But are you a yogi? Is that your title?
I think that's kind of weird. It's like, I practice yoga. I practice meditation. I do the things, but I don't know. It's like, I feel funny calling myself that, whether I am or I'm not really going to say. Other people call me a yogi, but I'm just me practicing stuff.
Well, tell us about the school. Tell us about the schooling then.
So, in school, let's see. So, yoga school is really amazing. So I went to Yoga Ah and studied under Amber Jean, and it was an Ashtanga training. So for us, it was my lineage is through Larry Schultz, and what he did with Ashtanga is he broke it down into a more accessible, like a more physically accessible version of Ashtanga. Because when he was in school practicing under his teacher, it was like a time where he could not learn the whole sequence, which, you know, there's a lot of poses in this Ashtanga flow, right? And he could not learn the whole sequence until he mastered each pose in order. So he's like, you know, years into this like yoga practice, and he still couldn't do the splits, and he was like fed up. He's like, something is not right. Like, there has to be another way to make this go a little bit quicker. So he started incorporating modifications and variations to each pose. So that way you could do the whole sequence even if you weren't super flexible, right? And then through that, you would be able to increase your flexibility and get through the whole sequence within a reasonable amount of time. And that is the rocket practice, the rocket yoga, which is what I'm certified under. And so in yoga school, you know, you learn the sequence, you learn the names, you practice teaching each other, which is nerve-wracking, because when I went to yoga school, I was not planning on being a teacher. I was like, I'm here for me. I want to learn how to heal my body. I want to learn how to take care of me. I want to understand yoga. You know,
sounds
for
pretty
personal,
selfish.
yeah, honestly, it was just like, I just want this for me. And also being a massage therapist with the yoga certification, that gave me permission to give my clients stretching or strength training exercises. Because as a massage therapist, you don't have the right to personal training. But, you know, as a yoga instructor, I'm now allowed to tell my client how to stretch, you know, that would benefit them. And so I was like, okay, that'll help me in my massage world. This is going to help me with my physical body. And so, yeah, you know, you have to stand there and like teach your friends in class, like do the whole routine. And I was like, oh my God.
And but they can't teach you, right, how to look within yourself, right?
They teach you elements. And so like one of those things would be utilizing like your Ujjayi breath. So you breathe in and out through your nose and you feel that whistle in the back of your throat. So the Ujjayi breath, and that is like how you breathe the whole time. And, you know, she would teach you, my teacher would teach us how to activate our bandhas. So lifting the pelvic floor or dropping your chin to your chest to like do a throat lock, and, you know, how to like activate your abdominals to do the abdominal lock, right? And when you would do these locks in certain poses, so like in Dandasana, you like sit on your bum, you activate all the locks, everything is locked out and straight, and that circulates the energy within your system. So that way the energy doesn't release from your crown because you've got your chin locked, right? Your chin is down to your chest, so the energy stays down. But in order to keep it from releasing from your bottom into the earth, you activate your pelvic floor, you lift. And so you're holding all this energy, the chi, in your belly. And it's like you're recharging your own battery that way. So we were given like...
And what does that feel like?
What does it feel like?
Yes.
Okay. So this is something...
And I guess like they're training you to be aware of what's happening, right?
Yes, that's great. Yes, a great way to put it. Yes, they're teaching you how things to look out for. And they give you the foundations of like, okay, here are the pieces, see what you find. You know, and that's the thing. So when
And I ask you that too because all three of us are martial artists.
Oh yeah.
And chi is a controversial subject in martial arts.
Well, I wouldn't call myself a martial artist.
You're pretty good yourself, Jamie.
I was gonna say, you practice, you're good there.
I need to start going a little bit more, but you know, I'm just fat and lay on people.
You'll get better. So the thing is, what we were talking about with like meditation and the self-exploration is no one can give you the answers. No one can tell you what you're going to experience. It's got to be self-realized. And I have a really cool story for that because I had a friend of mine, a client come in, for a massage, and she was all fired up. She was like, can you just believe how much pain and suffering there is in the world? I just can't understand it. I can't believe it. This is ridiculous. Like, doesn't it just like fire you up? And I just like looked at her because I could not relate at all. I'm like, no, I don't feel triggered by the pain and suffering of the world. Like, I don't. And she was like, how can you not? The world can be so ugly and painful. Like, I can't even stand it. And so she's on the table, and I was like, well, this is something that I've worked with myself, and I've gotten myself to a place that makes sense for me. But if I tell you what I believe, it's not going to resonate, because that's something that you have to find within yourself, right? So with her, I was like, you know what? Like, why is it that it's bothering you so much? And she was like, well, I've just been in pain my whole life. Physically, I have been in so much pain. And she's got a couple different things that she's been dealing with. She's on a lot of medication. She is in like physical pain constantly, and it's been like debilitating for her. So she's just like, I can't stand it, and I don't understand, like, why me? Why do I have to feel all this pain? And I was like, do you meditate? Like, have you ever meditated on that before? And she was like, yeah, I have. And I was like, well, what did you find? And she was like, all I do is cry. And I'm like, oh, so you haven't received any insight or words, but you feel things, you feel the emotions. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, so what I want you to do, like while you're on the table, I want you to personify pain. Give pain a body and a face, and bring pain in front of you. Just pain is going to sit right in front of you, and you're going to talk to pain. Ask pain, why? Why are you here? What are you here to show me? And so she did that. And at first she did not like the answer. And she was like, what? And I was just holding space for her. I was just doing my job and making her feel as safe as possible, so that way she could do her work. And finally she starts crying, and she's like, I get it now. I understand. And, I hugged her, and, I told her, I was like, whenever you're ready, if you want, you can share or just keep it to yourself. But, just know I'm here. And eventually she told me so this is her experience, right? So for everybody, this will be different, but her experience. So Pain looked at her, and Pain was like, I didn't choose you. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, what are you trying to say? And Pain said, you chose me. And she's like, why on earth would I do that? Why would I pick pain? That's so stupid. And Pain said, you feel like you deserve this. And that's when she lost it. Because ever since she was a little kid, she has believed that she is deserving of pain. And that's just, from her personal experiences growing up. And so if you think about, like, she in some way may have manifested all of these disorders and, these physical issues just to reinstate that belief that she deserves pain. But now with this awareness, she has a choice. She can change her perspective and her experience of pain, which she has. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it sounds like you didn't help her, but gave her the tools to help herself, which is kind of what you've been really talking about all night, is having the tools to look within yourself and having tools to better your own self. So you weren't. That's another, I guess, step away from the religion part of it, right? Whereas
religion, all the answers are given to you.
Yeah, this was religion. You'd have been like,
you've got the answers right here.
You're you know why you're in pain? Because of this.
Yeah,
because you're a bad
God
person.
said so.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like,
but it sounds like you believe in a higher power, a God.
Absolutely.
You said that you talked to angels, so it's not that you stepped away from God. It sounds like you stepped away from the structure.
The structure,
religion
absolutely.
Part
I
of
stepped away from the structure because I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of being told what to think. I want to know for myself. What does God have to say to me? Like, what is real?
And I like being a good little sheep, but I see My wife has accused me of not seeing the evil in the world, but I think I purposely ignore it because I don't want to be sad. I don't like to be sad. Anybody who has ever met me knows that I'm a lot, and I know that I'm a lot to deal with at times, but I'm not sad because I don't want to see the dude shooting heroin in the park, so I choose not to. Whereas my wife sees all shit. How did you not see that? I was like, because I didn't look. I don't want to see it. But I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be in pain, but I'm fat.
So Karen, you've talked about several times that you teach Ashtanga yoga, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between Ashtanga yoga and other forms of yoga?
God, there's so many different styles of yoga and all the elements that make everything up. And like I asked a friend of mine who is, like really respected in yoga. And I asked her, I'm like, you know what? Help me understand what the difference is between Ashtanga and Vinyasa, because poses are really kind of the same, the flow is different, but like, the poses are the same. Like how can someone describe really the difference between the two? And we went to the same school, and, she explained to me, and she's like, well, I think that it's mostly that Vinyasa is more of a flow. So you do one pose a breath, and then the next pose, the next breath, and you just keep moving. So each breath is a new pose or, a transition. Whereas with Ashtanga, it's more structured. So you hold a pose for 5 breaths. You rest there. You hold it and you experience it. Then you move. And then you hold that and you experience it. And then you move. So really, I am not totally sure besides like, just that, the structure. You've got, like I said, so many different styles of yoga. And another style that is like very easy to identify is yin yoga, because you're holding each pose for like 3 to 5 minutes. And it is just like,
Ouch.
You're melting. It's great.
Is there like a power struggle? Like, oh, my yoga is better than your yoga. Is that? No, I wouldn't think so, but I just figured I'd ask.
Because in the martial arts, it's certainly like that, isn't it? The different styles.
Like, you do karate? What are you, 4?
Yeah. Right.
Ooh, I can break a board. Oh, sorry.
No, it's good, but it's true. Like in martial arts, there is that like kind of, mine is better than yours kind of feeling. But like in yoga, is because it's a self-discovery. It's like, what method do you choose to reach enlightenment? Like meditation, that's yoga. Doing the asanas, that's yoga.
So for the people out there, Karen, who should come to you? What can yoga do for them? What kind of benefits can be given to them, both physically and spiritually?
So we talked a lot about the spiritual benefits, being unmoved by external forces and being able to be pure and to be whole and unmovable, and like the physical aspects, the physical benefits would be that, yoga is almost, I guess it's really like a form of self-massage, because you're moving the lymphatic system, you're increasing blood flow, which is boosting your immune system, and it flushes inflammation, and it's really good for your digestive system. Like the certain poses, you're massaging your organs, and you alleviate pain if you do it with mindfulness, which is the point. You meet your body where it's at. It's not like you got to push yourself to hold this certain pose a certain way and make it look just right. It's about what are you experiencing in that space?
And what I always found impressive when you've taught a class is you remind people constantly that, don't push this, to the point of pain, go as far as you want. You don't have, obviously different people have different amounts of flexibility, different amounts of endurance, different amounts of cardio, because there is even a cardio component to some yoga. and you're very, very mindful, and you remind people constantly that just do what you can do, and obviously, and as they keep going back, they'll get better and better. So
yeah, I mean, it doesn't help to I always give modifications and variations to every pose. I'm like, you know what? Your arm is in the air. Like, listen, if your shoulder hurts, put your hand on your hip. Just drop that arm. Don't push yourself to pain. If you are actually struggling to breathe holding this pose, you should probably ease up, because you're not going to be able to reach, the state of wholeness or, a higher state of consciousness if you're holding your breath and struggling. If you're in pain, that's a distraction. So honor yourself. Just respect yourself exactly where you are.
Because I could see that if you're focusing, if the pain is to the point where you're focusing on that, then you can't really focus on yourself. But you talked about the wellness part of it. I think there's been some very well established journals that studies, and there's still, like I said, because I think yoga and modern medicine, it's kind of early in its adoption with modern medicine, and incorporating that, because everything that I read in my research shows like, okay, so yoga is not the way that modern medicine looks at it, is not from the holistic standpoint, but more from the physical benefits that it gives you. But incorporating that, basically, that yoga is not like a standalone drug or a quick fix. It's something that should be used in conjunction with modern medicine, because studies have shown that it's people who not when I say practice yoga in this sense, I'm not talking about the way we've been discussing it, but from the stretching standpoint, the strength, the training, that it has been shown to help with diabetes, people with hypertension. It's shown to lower blood pressure, and just overall cardiovascular health. Yoga and Tai Chi, you mentioned Tai Chi earlier, have been clinically shown in these early studies to have a reduction in those types of symptoms.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's why you're also seeing kind of this large uptick in the capitalistic part of yoga and the dealing with the stretching, is because it's now being adopted by modern medicine, and more physicians are recommending yoga. But not from the mental and the spiritual aspect of it.
But there's
which is why I had those preconceptions too.
Oh yeah, but there's like I said, so even just the asanas, the postures alone, the breath work alone, the meditation alone, each part is very powerful. I mean, so if you can even look up pranayama or breath work for certain diseases, and it's just amazing. Like the things that you'll find, like alternate nostril breathing helps a lot with the endocrine system. So if you have a thyroid dysfunction, if you Google,
why'd you look at me? She looked right at me when she said that.
Did you say alternate nostril breathing?
Yes.
What?
Alternate nostril breathing.
You can't. That's impossible.
What do you mean?
You can't breathe out of one nostril at a time.
I just tried it.
Oh my God, Karen's picking her nose.
Oh, you just plugged your nose.
Yeah,
oh, okay. I thought you meant like,
me
like
too.
you're just sitting there going,
Yeah.
in the left, out the right. In the left, out the right.
No, you plug the nostril.
Now I'm gonna move I'm moving the booger with my mind from the left to the right nostril.
I literally, when Karen said that, I sat here and I went,
huh?
Hey, no way.
No, yeah. So, but it's like if you have a thyroid dysfunction or endocrine issues, like that helps with that. I mean, the alternate nostril breathing helps with a lot of different things. But that's just something that I think is really amazing, is any disorder that you have, or illness or ailment, whatever, you can look up breath work to medicine that. It's amazing. So of course, like, if these doctors are understanding now that yoga is beneficial, it's like, wow, that's pretty great. But like, like what we said before, they're picking and choosing certain aspects of yoga. So not the whole yoga.
And you mentioned earlier too, like the sutras, and one of the things that I came across reading was like tantric yoga, and of course I was like, "Ooh, what's that? I've heard of that before." and the Kama Sutra. And I'm like, I've heard of that too. And my mind immediately went to kind of this very.
And remember the Sting interview from about 20 years
Oh,
ago?
yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to do that. So, but
It
I
probably caused a tidal wave of people to go to yoga class.
but even
Yeah.
but I'm like researching that. I'm like, oh wait, it's
Do you-
not
do you know
about
Yeah.
you know, but
I've heard.
but
of this.
like the way I read it, it's not like the tantric yoga and the Kama Sutra. It's not about the sexual part of it.
No.
It seemed to be about like being one together.
Mhm.
I guess is the best way that I can put it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
it's
what
like
can you say about that?
It's honoring your partner, honoring the energy that you're exchanging between the two. You know, it's not like whereas like sex is just like, oh, let's get this orgasm like real quick, like let's just get it done, bada boom, bada bang. Or like maybe like your intention when you're with your partner is just to see like, the timing of your climax, like your intention is just different when you're practicing like the tantric yoga and Karma Sutra and all that kind of stuff. It's like your intention goes more to experiencing and balancing this heightened energy, this consciousness that you're exchanging with your partner, and just like you said, like being one with them.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, I wasn't really too surprised by it because by the time I got to the tantric yoga part, I'd already done a lot of research on it and realized that my preconceived notions about yoga was wrong all along. So it's like, of course I'm going to be wrong about this. But I mean, I thought it was like, wow, that's caring about other people and caring about the experience that you have with them. I thought that was like pretty cool. I'll never do it because I can't do those poses, but whatever. Maybe one day.
And I'm pretty sure those practices are also like originating from like honoring the woman, because like that's where life stems from. Like the woman is the child bearer, so it's like you bow to this being, this like.
Okay, now you can't talk to my wife.
That's right.
I wanted you to talk to her earlier, but now you can't. Okay.
But it's like it's the magic of like respecting where life comes from, and like your partner is, if you're hetero.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you're not hetero, right? I mean, you still want whoever you're with.
Yeah, you definitely want to honor your partner and be in communion with them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gay. I could never like be emotionally attached to another guy. I mean, I'll kiss you on your mouth, but I couldn't like care about your feelings, whatever.
Oh my God.
So, well, sorry, you were going to say something. Yeah, we're at an hour and 38 minutes right now.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, Karen, tell us. Okay, so where's your studios at? Where are you teaching at? What days are you teaching? If you want to throw out, pricing and all that kind of stuff, or where people can go to your website to find all that stuff out, let us know.
Cool.
Tell us this.
So let's see. So I practice out of Ludlow, Kentucky, and so I do private yoga sessions and the massage work and the energy work anytime, any day. You can visit my website once again at karenapril.com to schedule an appointment. And, even with the energy work, like that can be done at a distance. So even if you're not local, that is still something that you can access. If you want to come to a class, I've got my schedule also on the website. The pricing is there. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know. I think that's it.
Yeah.
She's very good with kids too. She's massaged both my children.
Well, and I was, just so everyone knows, jiu-jitsu busts you up, and Karen keeps putting us all back together.
Oh yeah, I love you guys. I gotta take care of my buddies.
I'm gonna end on another Karen story.
All right.
So she was gonna. My son loves massages. Like, loves
my
them.
Lord.
So we are like, oh, okay. So Karen's like, I do massage. So my wife booked a massage with Karen, and my son goes in there, and Karen said, is there any place you don't want me to massage? And my son looked at my wife and he goes, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
That came out wrong.
Yeah, like, because some people are like, yeah, definitely don't touch my feet, or like, absolutely do not touch my head or my face or my throat. You know what I mean? Just anything. And but he's a kid. He doesn't know like that there's preferences like that. And he's just like, oh my God, yeah, don't touch my pee-pee.
All right. So, I've had a lot of fun. You are amazing to talk to. I don't think I've this is the longest conversation that I've ever had with you.
Yeah.
And I hope it's not the last. You are great. You're just an amazing person. And I just want to apologize on behalf of the internet for giving the name Karen a bad name.
Thank you.
And just so people out there know, Karen is also a licensed, certified medical massage therapist.
Yes.
And we were going to have that topic discussed today too, but I don't think we want to do a 3-hour podcast.
Nope, but hey, hint to upcoming episode.
But yeah, so everybody stay tuned, and we'll have Karen back to talk about medical massage on a future episode.
Karen, thank you
Thanks
again for coming
me.
and being our first guest. I sincerely appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
This was so fun.
All right, guys. Till next time. Also, forget how we got here. JP@gmail.com for any questions, comments, concerns. We appreciate all the support. Spread the word. Follow, like, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. We will be getting video here very, very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And we're here for you. How we got here, JP@gmail.com. Have a good night.